She was an actress with big potential. Then Brittany Murphy died young. Well, now a new HBO Max documentary is looking into the star's troubled final years.
Brittany, please come back.
She's a Scorpio. What else do you need to know?
I'm a double Scorpio.
Double Scorpio.
She evidently collapsed in the bathroom.
Ashton Kutcher has now reportedly turned against Sean Diddy Combs and is allegedly ready to come forward with evidence that could link Diddy to the mysterious passing of actress Brittany Murphy. This shocking turn of events is making headlines, especially since there have been increasing rumors about federal investigators reopening Brittany's case. Ever since whispers began circulating about authorities taking another look into Brittany Murphy's death, things have gone from bad to worse for Diddy. He's already in the middle of a massive legal battle, and now one of his longtime friends might be preparing to speak out against him. This development has left many stunned, and if the rumors are true, the story is about to take a very dark turn. Diddy's name has been in the news non-stop since his arrest back in September. Each new detail that surfaces seems even more troubling than the last. The music mogul has been facing a series of major accusations, including
During a little dip she was having, he came along. And I think that's where her judgment was muddled and she became prey.
Simon said that he was the largest collector of Vermeer, dated Elle Macpherson and Madonna. He said that he had been dying from terminal brain cancer and that he had bought an experimental treatment derived from the fins of sharks. Every single word out of his mouth was a lie.
We all were scared and freaked out. Like, who was this guy?
Once they got married, they were holed up in that house 24/7.
Nobody got close to her.
Last one, guys.
serious criminal charges. These include human trafficking, organized crime, and forcing people into exploitative situations. The conditions these individuals allegedly endured have been described as abusive and degrading. Now that the trial has officially begun this month, things are intensifying. More people are coming forward with disturbing claims, and investigators are digging deep into Diddy's history, examining his past with a fine-toothed comb. As they look into his personal life, they're also questioning the people he surrounded himself with over the years. One name that keeps coming up is Ashton Kutcher. While many might not immediately associate Ashton with Diddy, they actually go way back. Despite Ashton seeming to distance himself lately, the two were once extremely close. According to OK magazine, their friendship started in the early 2000s and grew quickly. Ashton even talked about it in a 2019 episode of Hot Ones, saying they're
Made it.
Fire Department 97, what's the address of the emergency?
1895 Rising Glen Road.
What's the phone number you're calling from? Tell me exactly what happened.
Oh, somebody's passed out.
Somebody what?
My daughter's passed out. We're doing mouth to mouth. Please get here quick,
okay,
please.
okay. All right, we're going to. How old is your daughter?
She's 30. Please hurry.
She's 30?
Connection was kind of strange from the beginning. He explained that their friendship began with an episode of his prank show Punked. Diddy told Ashton, "You can't punk me," to which Ashton replied, "Everyone's fair game." That light-hearted moment sparked a bond between them. From that point on, they began hanging out often, even watching sports together. But with Diddy now facing serious allegations, people are starting to reevaluate everyone he's been close to, especially Ashton. That's because Ashton and Diddy's names have come up in connection to the unusual circumstances surrounding Brittany Murphy's death in 2009. Brittany's passing shocked Hollywood and left her fans in disbelief. But even now, over a decade later, many questions remain unanswered. According to reports, Brittany collapsed in the bathroom of her Los Angeles home, which she shared with her husband Simon Monjack and her mother Sharon Murphy. Sharon made the 911 call, and Brittany was rushed to Cedars-Sinai Medical Center. Sadly, she didn't survive. At the time, the official cause of death was listed as pneumonia. However, that explanation didn't sit right with a lot of people. Friends later claimed, Brittany had told them she felt like someone was watching her. Even more disturbing, she believed she was being poisoned. What made things even creepier was how similar her case was to that of Kim Porter, Diddy's ex-girlfriend and the mother of 3 of his kids. Just like Brittany, Kim also died suddenly, and under questionable circumstances in 2018. And just like Brittany, her cause of death was ruled to be a type of pneumonia, specifically lobar pneumonia. She too had expressed fear for her life in the weeks before her passing. This has led many to wonder, is it really possible that 2 young, seemingly healthy women both died of the same rare illness?
Now the HBO documentary, What Happened, Brittany Murphy, alleges Monjack was a con artist and contributed to her death. Brittany's friend, actress Kathy Najimy, appears in the documentary.
During a little dip she was having, he came along. And I think that's where her judgment was muddled and she became prey. We all were scared and freaked out. Like, who was this guy?
And there's this shocking claim.
Simon said that he dated Elle Macpherson and Madonna. He said that he had been dying from terminal brain cancer and that he had bought an experimental treatment derived from the fins of sharks. Every single word out of his mouth was a lie.
After saying they were scared for their lives? For many, that's just too much of a coincidence to ignore. It's also worth noting that before Kim died, there were reports suggesting she was working on a book that would reveal damaging secrets, possibly even involving Diddy. Some sources say she might have been cooperating with federal agents before she passed away. Back to Brittany, her husband Simon was against the idea of having an autopsy performed. That raised suspicions immediately. But legally, he couldn't stop it. The medical examiner went ahead, eventually listing pneumonia, anemia, and a mix of medications as factors in her death. However, this didn't provide closure. If anything, it added more confusion. Strangely, Simon also passed away just a few months later. He died in the same house and from the same causes, pneumonia and anemia. This baffled people even more. What made things even more mysterious was the fact that, according to ABC News, the coroner's office initially didn't release details about what substances were in Brittany's body. This lack of transparency only made people more suspicious. Simon claimed in interviews that Brittany was only taking natural remedies, cold medicine, and pain relievers. He insisted nothing she used would have harmed her. Brittany's mom, Sharon, agreed with him. She said, her daughter didn't drink or use illegal substances. At one point, she even suggested that Brittany might have had a hidden heart problem. But the most chilling part of all this was Brittany's repeated claim that she was being poisoned. She reportedly became so paranoid that she had fingerprint, locks, and security cameras installed throughout her home. That doesn't sound like something a calm, relaxed person does. It sounds like someone who genuinely feared for their life. Later on, another theory surfaced. Some people suggested toxic mold in the house might have contributed to both Brittany and Simon's deaths. Simon and Sharon suddenly supported this idea, saying the house could have made them sick. But when officials wanted to test for mold, things took another strange turn. Despite the numerous theories and odd details, the case was never fully reopened. Until now, possibly. With federal agents reportedly considering taking a second look, new witnesses or evidence could come into play. That's where Ashton Kutcher's name resurfaces. If Ashton does decide to cooperate, his testimony could change everything. He was part of Brittany Murphy's life in her final days, and if he truly knows something about Diddy's possible involvement, the investigation might take a dramatic new direction. At this point, everything is still unfolding. But if even half of what's being said turns out to be true, it could blow the case wide open and drag some very big names down with it. What's clear is that Brittany Murphy's death was never as straightforward as it seemed. The same goes for Kim Porter. The similarities between their stories are simply too strange to ignore. And now, with Ashton Kutcher possibly stepping into the spotlight, the truth may finally come to light. Stay tuned, because this story is far from over. They said no to the inspection. But if they truly thought mold caused her death, why stop anyone from checking the house? It just doesn't make any sense. And here's the thing. Dr. Richard Shepard, a well-known pathologist, completely dismissed the mold theory. He clearly stated that there was no sign of mold or fungi in Brittany Murphy's lungs or bloodstream. So that possibility is off the list. But one thing that hasn't been ruled out, Brittany's deep fear of being poisoned. That's still a very real and chilling part of this story. In the months before she passed, people close to her said she started acting very scared and paranoid. She became extremely cautious, especially with food and drinks. She avoided eating anything from certain places, convinced someone might be trying to harm her. She even told close friends that powerful people in Hollywood were watching her, and she believed they had bad intentions. And then there's her husband, Simon Monjack. He's at the center of all this mystery. He was older, controversial, and many people felt he gave off unsettling vibes. Brittany met him when she was only 17. Even then, his reputation was already full of red flags. People had accused him of fraud, being manipulative, and just being involved in shady stuff. A lot of Brittany's friends thought he was using her for his own benefit. And honestly, looking back now, it's hard not to agree with them. Their relationship seemed strange. She became more isolated from others. Some believed it might have even been dangerous. And let's not forget this crucial detail. Simon died just 5 months after Brittany, in the same house. From the same causes, pneumonia and anemia. That's not just odd, it's downright eerie. You have to ask, what are the chances that two relatively young and healthy people living under the same roof would die from the same illnesses only months apart? It's more than a coincidence. It's suspicious. When the mold theory was ruled out, things started getting even darker. Brittany's father, Angelo Bertolotti, didn't believe the official reports. He decided to do his own digging and hired a private lab to conduct new tests. What they found was absolutely chilling. The lab discovered extremely high levels of heavy metals in Brittany's hair. We're talking about substances you'd typically find in rat poison or insecticides, stuff that definitely shouldn't be in anyone's system. After this discovery, her father said he believed Brittany had been murdered. But here's another disturbing twist. Why didn't the original coroner test for poisoning? Apparently, they didn't even think to check for toxins because no one had suggested the idea. But Brittany had literally told people she was afraid of being poisoned. She had voiced her fears, yet no one took her seriously. And to make things even more unsettling, both her husband Simon and her mother Sharon, reportedly, did everything they could to block further investigations. That doesn't just raise eyebrows, it screams cover-up. Sharon, who lived in the house and claimed to be very close to her daughter, didn't behave like a grieving mother. After Brittany died, rumors started swirling. People whispered that Sharon and Simon had gotten uncomfortably close in the months after Brittany's death, like inappropriately close. Then, just as the gossip was getting louder, Simon died too. After that, Sharon quickly sold the house and abandoned the mold theory she'd once pushed. No more statements, no calls for deeper investigation, no public fight for the truth. Just silence. Now think about this for a moment. If your daughter had died in such strange circumstances, wouldn't you be desperate to find out what really happened? Wouldn't you demand answers from everyone involved? But Sharon didn't. She just walked away from it all. This is where the story goes from suspicious to absolutely wild. Some fans believe Sharon and Simon were hiding a major secret.